right, thank you guys for being here and watching. This is Casey Music Talk, and we're on another episode here. I have a longtime player here in Kansas City, Alan Monroe.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing considering everything, I'm doing good.
It's awesome, man. I'm glad you're here. I know
Thank
you and
you for
I.
having me.
Yeah. I think you and I did a gig with Gary Gardner
Yes.
one time. I think it was at Starlight or something.
Yeah.
And then I've played with you, a number of times at different jams. I think one of the ones was with Millie,
Yeah.
I think, over at the Phoenix.
Yeah.
I think we
On
played.
the Monday night jam.
Yeah, the Monday night jam, yeah. And then obviously with Mama Ray's jam.
Ray, yeah.
Yeah, and I always enjoy playing with you, man. I mean, you're just like,
Thank you.
you're all over it. You're like, what song we playing? Okay, boom, and you just like hit it, It's always been fun to play with you.
Well, it's actually, all I can do is give God all the credit for that, because I've been doing this for my whole life. And, well, since I was 3, I've been able to play. And it's a natural God-given, that's the only way I can explain it.
Yeah, wow, so you started at 3, huh?
Yeah. Well, my father's pastor of a church. I started playing at church.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it basically I ended up, with the choir and, all of that kind of stuff, and just learning more music as I kept growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And had a chance very early to, at that time, some of the really great James Cleveland, Odessa McCassell, the O'Neill twins, Shirley Caesar, all having a father that's a preacher. We went to all these different churches, and back in the day they used to have a place called Ivanhoe Temple on Linwood and Olive, and all these different church groups and stuff used to come there, and the quartet, I call them the Huff and Puffs, for the quartet. Anyway, that's just all part of growing up. And my father, and of course my mother, when I was growing up, sent me to learn how to read music.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned every good boy does find all cows in grass, and it still don't mean much. I've had other musicians who try to explain it and stuff. Some of it I understand, some of it I don't. But it's funny because, like when I play with J.U. Daly or Monty, both guitar players, excellent guitar players, they both say, okay, well, this is a D diminished 13 flatted something. And okay, but it don't mean anything. But you play it. Yeah, I play it because I hear it, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So with the, let's just go right to that. So I know that when we come up there, you obviously now you've played thousands of songs, so you're not doing it on the fly all the time, because a lot of times they'll call songs that you already know, or that you played at least once. But like, what do you think about that playing by ear? Like, what advantage do you think you have, or what, like, how do you think about that?
Well, basically, I think the only advantage is because I can hear. You sing whatever you want, and I can find the chords that will accompany that. I said, like for me, when I went to learn music, and I got all the way to Moonlight Sonata, and the teacher sitting there turning the pages, and got to part 2 and said, keep going. I never heard part 2. My younger sister, Marquita, she's gone now. But I used to give her a nickel a dime. She'd play the song. I'd listen to it and go back and play it for the teacher. So I never actually learned to read the music, but I heard it so I could play it.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I had the same thing. I learned Suzuki method, and so I did heavier training early on, and we had, I've said this on the show before, we were playing a William Tell, and we started playing it in 4th grade, and I wouldn't read nothing, I couldn't read it, and I was just like, oh, that one, like you've said that before to yourself, oh, that one, and then I got to the second part, and I was like, okay, yep, and I just blasted through it, and then we got to the third part, and I'm like, oh crap, and I didn't know it, and I just, so that's funny
because I understand how that is.
Have like, I know they talk about this a lot in jazz, where you have a lot of those songs, and especially this way in blues, like chord wise, because a lot of the songs are really similar. But in jazz, there starts to be a lot of the 2/5, 2/5, 2/5 kind of stuff. It's like it's not all the same song
No.
in different versions,
Yeah.
but some of it is.
Oh,
you
a
know,
lot of
and
it is.
a lot of it is.
Well,
You know?
there's only so many notes.
Right.
So you know, regardless, because like I play with a band sometimes called, it's either the Premium Adjusters or COP Productions or Duck Warner. Mm-hmm. Depends on who hires, you know. And we do like a 50s doo-wop medley type thing, and you can sit there for a half an hour and do
Song,
yeah,
on
them same four chords.
Yeah.
And you know, people don't think about that, but I hear music all the time that no matter what it is, I can hear another song or another, you know, that would fit in there.
Sure. Yeah.
And but only, I can't say all musicians, because some can hear it and some can't.
Right.
You know, now a lot of them, the classically trained, they can hear it, but a lot of the classically trained don't have a lot of feeling. They play by rote, and I can't fault the way they play, because that's how, you know. And if I could be that, hey, amen. But I don't know, I hear things on a, I guess, different level. But other people hear it, but only some people can do it, and some people just don't hear it that way.
Do you have any theory on why you feel like they don't have as much feeling in their playing?
Well, because it's all programmed, and because you have to play exactly note for note for note for note, so you tend to go with the note for note, and you tend to forget feeling. Music is feeling, and well, I believe it's supposed to be, because the thing most musicians tend to forget is we are playing for the people. And you know, I've talked to music. Oh, I can't play that. That's not jazz. Oh, I can't play that. That's not. These people are paying your bill, and everybody. During all the years that I played, I've always been. If you have any requests, don't hesitate to holler. Of course, remember, if it don't sound right, you ask for it.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm willing to give it a try. There's other people I play with. Some of them will go along with that, and others, well, I'm kind, you know, and they don't want to chance it. But these same people they don't want to chance are the same people that's paying your bills, or that's paying to be entertained by you.
Right.
You know, like, I want to hear this song. I want to hear. There are so many songs if I never played again. But of course, that's the one thing. I'm 70 years old. The one thing I've learned, you don't have to be crazy to be a musician, but it helps.
Yeah, it helps.
And, hey, that's the only way to describe it. Because when you're growing up in it, like I say, my father played guitar, but only in the church. My mom played piano some. But out of 10 kids, everybody in my family could play music.
Really? Wow.
Every one of them. And all of them put their talent on the shelf and walked off and left it. The only one, my older brother, Kenneth, he took over the church when my father died. He played saxophone.
Yeah.
Now, he'll play, but he'll only play at church. You know?
Well, that's something. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
He's
but
still
at least
doing
he
it.
will play there.
Yeah.
But all the other kids, they just put the talent away and walked off and left it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Well, the only one who actually, it made sense for him was my younger brother Alfredo. And of course, Alfredo was 6'9".
Wow.
So I think he'd rather play basketball. Hey, it makes perfect sense to me.
Or go be tall somewhere.
Well, I say it lucked up that I say I went to Central, And so I guess most of my other siblings went there for a while. And I say Alfredo went there, and they wouldn't let him play. So he went over to Kansas and played at Sumner. Took him right on the state, and
Yeah.
Anyway, the coach at Alcorn, well, hey, I'll give you a full 4-year scholarship if you come play for us. And of course, Alfredo being up, well, yeah, take my brother Andre, who's a couple of years older, give him a 4-year scholarship, and we got a deal. So both my brothers got full 4-year scholarship.
That's neat.
And of course, when Alfredo got out, or from college, the Kansas City Kings was here.
Yeah,
And they offered him like 50 grand a year to play with them. And of course, Venezuela offered him 85, a house and a car.
Wow.
So, needless to say, he was in Venezuela for years and
He
years.
went down and played in Venezuela.
Yeah,
Wow.
for a whole lot of years. So all I could
That would have been an experience.
we talked about that off and on.
You mentioned something that we weren't going to talk about, but it's really interesting. I've talked about the idea of playing for the crowd or playing for the other musicians. We've talked about on the show a bunch, and me and Lonnie McFadden have had a bunch of different conversations about that. Where he was trying, when I was first got into town, he was kind of talking to me about that it. And we were talking a lot about like writing music and like if you're gonna write for other musicians or if you're gonna write for what you think people would want to hear, and maybe there's a balance in there too, but
there is a balance.
Yeah,
you just have to find it.
And we always talk a lot about the Mustang Sallies, right? The Sweetum, Alabama's, the Brick House, so Leroy Brown, and there's
Brown Mary.
like so definitely somebody like a Lonnie would fall on the side of kind of the Louis Armstrong kind of tradition of and I would assume that you would be a little bit more on that side too of understanding that there's a club owner here, right? These people are you already mentioned that they're paying for drinks and stuff, and what do you get the impression of? Because I've met a ton of like college kind of people that come out of the academy and they all got their nose up, and they're all like, well, that's not jazz and yada yada yada. What do you think? Like, talk more about that.
I have problems with people like that anyway. Just it seems like they think it don't stink, but they're human and they put their pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. I've noticed that going and I haven't been to, as much as I hate to say it, down to the Musicians Foundation on 18th and Highland. I was down there lots and lots and lots. Of course, at that time, you could go in the daytime and the evening time, all night, and it was open all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's only open this time and blah, blah. And it seems like all the younger, the ones right out of college are just trying to take over. I don't begrudge them for that, but you go down there and, okay, you do 2 songs and get off to, let somebody, so I just got tired of the attitudes.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And so I just don't go.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys, and I have to admit I was like that when I was in college. I was like, no, I'm gonna play my originals and I'm gonna do jazzy stuff and whatever, and then I realized that because it was like originals and cover tunes. I had made this binary in my head about you're either an artist, or you're a scrub or whatever, and I've said this on the show too, that and then I realized, I'm like, wait a second, my whole CD case is cover tunes.
Yeah.
I like cover songs. What am I talking about? I was like, I'm wrong here,
But see, you have to understand that, as they say, there's a lot of musicians who play the stuff, but they get no enjoyment from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the wrong reason to be playing it. But of course, when you're a musician, you play what they want. I say, even for me, people come up, well, I want to hear Amazing Grace. I want to hear something, gospel. Yeah, I figure if you that drunk enough and you ask, hey, I'll play it for you. Just 'cause I assume you need to hear it.
Yeah.
And you never know, some might help somebody else too.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, none of the club owners said you can't play any, because I can play songs that if you don't do the church the words to it, you wouldn't know it was gospel.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, the music is just wow. Look at here,
Right.
and it's just, and I mean, some slow, some fast, some, but there's all even there's some that's semi. One guy, Richard Smallwood, and this gentleman made one, and to this day it just starts off with a full orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And violins and cellos start the song off, and then of course when the choir come in, it's just there's a prelude before the choir actually comes in
Right.
singing, and I play that and people just wow. Hey, you asked for it, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, some people just because some people actually understand some of the music, and some people just like the noise.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So, like, I know one time, I'll never forget this. I was playing it. It was a nursing home, and it was a guy came up, and somebody else had told me that this guy played for years, played violin for years, and he came up like afterwards and was talking to me, and he's just bawling. You know, he's like, you know, thank you, like, and I could just tell he could barely speak to me, you know, whatever, and I could just tell that meant a lot to him
Yeah.
to hear me play, you know, and it was hard for me, you know, I wasn't gonna cry, but it was emotional, you know, to listen to him, and you were talking about like what that means to people, and these guys that are just, you know, too good to play the, you know, the Amazing Graces or whatever, and you know, and this person like goes home crying.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how much that meant to
you
them,
know
and
it,
like,
yeah.
and they're too good to give somebody that experience. I mean, what do you? I mean, like,
Well, too, I think some of them have problems with, like, there's certain musicians that I can't play church music in a club. Why? You play church music everywhere else. You know, God gave you the talent to do it. You may as well play it there as anywhere else. Or that's my philosophy anyway.
Right.
But I say there's other people that will always disagree with that, just because. Well, I ran into that when I first started playing. When I was a teenager, I started playing a place called the 19th Hole over in Kansas City, Kansas, on 5th Street, right across from. It was a Thunderbird at that time. Later became 50-yard line. Buck Buchanan of the Chiefs owned it. We played across the street there, and that was my very first. And I was so young that on the breaks I had to go in the back room,
wow.
watch TV.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then when I was playing, I could be on stage,
Right.
you know. And of course, my father had fits being pastor of a church. Well, how can I preach to the people and my son's playing in the nightclub?
Right, right.
Yeah, but Dad, you taught me how to, you know, how to be and stuff. I'm not going out there acting crazy. This is a job. That's, you know, and that's what people fail to realize. Even though music's fun, music has its ups and downs. And as far as like living out of a suitcase and the sex, drugs, rock and roll, hey, all of that stuff actually exists. It's just how you deal with it. It got to me just, I got tired of living out of a suitcase. I was living up in, well, my whole life was strange like that because, well, playing for church, of course. Then I left, went to the Army, went to Vietnam, played over there for a little bit, played in Germany.
Wow.
In fact, Germany was fun. Parts of Vietnam was fun. Parts of it was terrible. And you think the government would learn something, but unfortunately, we're still there. That's another story. Anyway, I went to Germany, And my job, I was unit armor and supply. So anything you needed, I could order. We took care of the weapons, et cetera, et cetera. And got to Germany, and I did the same thing. And I told a full-bird colonel where he could get off. And they don't approve of that. Anyway, people had heard me playing in the service club, and so my punishment for telling them where to go was I got 3 months punishment playing at the officers club 5 nights a week.
Yeah, punishment.
No formation, no reveille, no uniform.
Wow.
Just play at the officers club 5 nights a week. So I enjoyed that a whole lot. And then at the end of the 3 months punishment, they had given my position away because they still needed somebody in the supply room. So they transferred me to the regimental band, which is where I would have liked to have been in the first place.
Right.
But anyway.
That's funny. How was that? Like, what was the reception in the what'd you say, the officers club or whatever? So were you playing for a lot of sailors and military people, or what was that?
Yeah, it was strictly officers.
Yeah.
And their aide de camps and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But all of them were officers.
Oh, okay.
You know, of course, they had the sergeants to wait on them and the privates.
Right.
But, yeah.
How was that, like, because I've heard they were talking about on that Ken Burns jazz video how, Artie Shaw and all these guys would go over, and I mean, again, these guys would be like crying, you know, because of the situation they're in, and reminding them of home, or reminding them of this, jazz and blues being kind of about freedom, and promoting Americanness and whatever. I mean, did you feel any of that when you were playing for?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes. Well, but see, that's it, because I was Vietnam 68, 69.
Wow.
I left 69, well, I went to Germany 69, 70, got out 71.
Wow, so you were right in the middle. I mean, that was right in the thick of it right there. Wow.
But, of course, God take care of crazy people, so here I am. A little crazier for wear and tear. But,
wow.
I can't complain because, just so many other people had so much worse. Now, it took me years before I could watch like The Deer Hunter and movies like that.
Wow.
But, slowly but surely I was able to.
You think?
I think the biggest thing is I had music to help me.
I was gonna. Yeah.
Well, because in Vietnam, I was at a place, really pretty place. I worked for the PX since I was supply, and they had a nice chapel there, and nice Hammond organ with 2 Leslie 147 RV speakers. And I went in and talked to the chaplain and said, well, who plays this? And, well, we do for Sunday, blah, 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 blah. And I asked him, is there any way I can play it? Oh, no, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I pestered them enough that, well, we'll give you a try. And they found out I actually could play. So I was one of the lucky, anytime you're not doing whatever your job, and we're not having something at church, here's the organ, help yourself.
That's neat.
So that's the biggest that stopped me from going crazy, is being able to do that.
Yeah, wow.
And then one time they said, oh, you need to go play. They sent me to a Navy ship and flew me by helicopter.
Oh, wow.
And it was an old pipe organ. Somebody had to sit there and actually pump the bellows so I could play.
Wow.
Built built in the wall in the ship.
Oh, wow.
I said, wow. That was an adventure in itself.
Wow. God, that thing would probably shake the whole ship, right?
It was compact size.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't that. Yeah, it wasn't huge, but yeah.
But
Wow.
the noise that came out of it for that size, it was amazing.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Like, so we were talking a little bit about when you're on stage and you get like people throwing music at you, throwing these songs, and that it cracks me up at jams now that I've been to 200-300 jams, that like when they because it's one thing in a band when you have your 50, 60 songs and then they start throwing those at you, but you kind of know what's coming.
Yeah.
At a jam, it's like
That's true.
that, Amazing Grace, all right, Home on the Range,
Yeah.
okay, and you do it, and like, and I think the one thing that I do, and I would assume you'd be like this too, that when you do get one of those songs that you don't like or a song that you're not into, that I think you do this too, where you just you find something about it to kind of like amuse yourself a little bit. And I know one big one for you is I hear you quote songs a lot. You'll throw like little you're like, okay, what'd you do, the like Rhapsody in Blue, I think I've heard you do that one in the middle of some rock song or something, which is funny.
Well,
But,
that's what music is meant to be. There's too much music that people just don't play. And I either don't want to or can't play, or I don't know. But I've always thought it's fun to throw, like I do, Star Wars or something like that in the middle of it. You're just something different. Of course, back in the day, as funny as it sounds, I was playing with a young lady at the Epicurean, 75th and Truth, and pretty decent band. It was mine, and she fired me from my band because I played. She said I was too silly.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, some people don't like that. They're maybe similar to classical musicians a little bit, where they have to have it,
Well, I just look at it and take it with a grain of salt.
Right. So like when I know for me, I've talked about this on the show, when I'm improving now, because I started playing real young, but improving, I didn't really start doing that until like college, but now 37, now I've been improving for at least 15 years, so I'm starting to get pretty comfortable with it. And so now and especially from playing for so long, I don't really have to think about what I'm playing, you know what I mean? You're kind of, there's kind of like, I see it as kind of like levels where your notes and your, in tune and all that's like, I'm not even thinking about that, because, and then like adjusting myself to the mood of the song, that's kind of over with too. But I still have trouble with trying to figure out like when to play, like what to play when, and so that's really hard. I mean that's where you get up, as far as I'm concerned, into somebody who's really good, is when they know exactly what to play when in the right spot,
and don't
overplay of the singer or et cetera, so that's for me what I tell people when they ask me like, what are you thinking about when you improv? Is that's what are you thinking about?
Well, basically the same thing, but I'm very, musicians forget they are like, especially with singers. Me, I am there to accompany, not overplay and overshadow and over accompany.
They're the point.
Yes, here
Right.
you're playing for them, and they're the star. You're just easing them in there.
Right.
Now that's the hardest part. Is a lot of these musicians they just play over the singer and don't even pay it any attention. And I don't know if some of them aren't aware or they just don't care or what the case is. But that's.
Either way is not good.
No. But generally, if the singer is competent enough, they'll say, "Hey, can you tone it down?" or like that. But some of them won't say anything, so they just let the musician run over them. And that's even worse, because then they play. And of course, there are musicians who do that, and there are musicians who, as much as I hate to say it, will just change the key because they don't want to play in a particular key because they don't like that key.
Bunch of turds.
Well, no, that's all part of it. Let's see, I had the pleasure of doing a CD with the late Myra Taylor. In fact, it was the last one I think she did at Blue Heaven Studios up in Salina. and that was the last one Sonny Kenner played on. Last one Eddie Saunders played on. Duck Warner was on that. Myself, Todd Strait and Gerald Spates.
Yeah, I know them too. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, but there was a couple of songs that we were doing, and they just, we're not gonna play on that. Okay, so just me and her.
Yeah, wow. I found that that's one of the things that, again, that makes that kind of jump from, if you can kind of play in tempo and time, and then you can kind of sort of adjust your dynamics and stuff, that now you're starting to sound like an actual professional, and you should be in a bar. You should actually be up on stage at this point. Well, but then that next section is who gets up into the the people that really that really know what they're doing, and so like that, I find, like, for me, I find comping to be harder than soloing because of that. I mean, do you agree with that?
It is. Well, but then when you have somebody else who's playing with you also, they could do that. It makes it easier.
Right. Yeah, like, I mean, so you're playing with Jay a lot, and Jay's been on the show too, and he, very good guitar player.
He's phenomenal, yeah.
But he knows that too, right? He knows the back off and kind of work with you and stuff. So, I mean, you probably, I would guess that you probably don't have any problem playing with him, if you guys playing over each other, huh?
Yeah, well, we do sometimes, but that's all part of being a musician.
Right. He kind of, bumps his chest, or whatever for a couple minutes. And
see, he's good enough. He can do that, though. When you write your own books and stuff. I was very impressed. Even some of it I understand, some of it I don't. But, I admire that they can do that.
Do you, so, I mean, we haven't really even hardly talked about Mama Ray yet, I mean, I know she's, been in town doing her thing for forever, and so, like, I'm fascinated by the open jams. I'm just fascinated by them. Everything about them is funny to me and just interesting and whatever, and it's funny that a lot of us don't ever really say stuff to people, but then we go into the back of the bar and we're like, true. This guy can't play, or da 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 da, he's playing over the singer, da da da, and like, so do you have any, not general advice, but specific like open jam advice for people who are nervous to get up there, or people who haven't been up at a jam? Do you have any?
I always tell them, if you think you can, you can. And of course, I tell them have liquid courage. That always helps too.
Not too much.
Well, some people it relaxes enough that it helps them, and then other people are just stupid. But other people are just stupid anyway. So you can't help stupid. That's part of being human. Because I'm a firm believer that everybody in the world is crazy. There's different degrees. So no matter how good, bad, indifferent, whatever, everybody's got their point.
You're not human. You're crazy. Like that's the
that covers a whole lot.
Yeah, that's funny. So and so you're talking about like have enough courage to get up there. What like?
Well, that and know what you'd like to sing. And if possible, know what key you sing it in. Because I have so many, play that in this. And you start off that key, and then of course they'll start off in a totally different key. And some musicians can hear this and act accordingly, and other people, I say some people can't play in all the keys. If you're supposed to be a musician, then you're supposed to be able to play in every key. Supposedly. As unfortunately, the electronic company has made it so easy. Oh, don't like that key? Press a button.
Now we're in F, right? Yeah.
And you're still sitting there playing in C. I have that on my piano, and other people have used it. I've never used it.
Good for you.
Yeah, well, but then I don't have any reason to.
Right.
You know, and I played somebody else's who already had the transpose on, so I had to play it in the key they were doing to the key that was on the piano, which was like the song was in B flat and the piano was in F. So I'd play all of that, you know, to compensate.
Like your brain just
Yeah, well, but
uh,
again, if you have an idea, but then a lot of people don't know what the notes are. You know, people keep telling me, "Oh, music is so hard." Music is not hard. I can't read it, but I keep telling them there's only this many notes on the piano. You get to here, you start over. You know, how can you get lost going from here to here? It's the same key, it's just up here, but it's the same key, just up here.
right.
And I think if they look at it that way, it might make it a little easier. But for the jam, for me, I always tell them it's like American Idol live.
Yeah.
You know, since you have a live band, and come on up.
Yeah, that is pretty fun. That it's like karaoke with a live band.
That's exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I tell them. You know, if you think you can, come on up here.
Right. And so you were talking about, because I've talked about this a lot with like Billy Ebling and a bunch of the guys that run jams around town, and this was one of the topics that after starting this interview show that I wanted to talk about a lot, because it was frustrating to me, is that you were talking about you should know all the keys. I have this opinion that a lot of people don't like, but I think there is a benchmark of ability that you should have before you get up at a jam, and a lot of people disagree with me about that, and they think that's too harsh, maybe, or
Well,
what do you think about that?
Well, it's harsh a little bit, but then that's what jams are for.
Right.
Jams are for the ones who would never get up, who would never think of getting up, and I used to play when I was playing with Monroe at Harling's.
Right.
We used to have this gentleman come by, nicest guy in the world, and he wanted to do Frank Sinatra, but every time he got to fly me to the moon and forgot the rest of it. Every time he got up there.
He forgot the rest of it.
Yeah. I figured now he gonna get up at least know the words. And his voice wasn't half bad. But he could do the Fly Me to the Moon. Occasionally he'd get to let me play Among the Stars, and the rest of it he'd lost.
Well, that's like doing Amazing Grace, and then you forget the rest of it.
Yeah.
I remembered the title.
Well, but see, with the Amazing Grace, you can play Amazing Grace to the tune of The House of the Rising Sun, and you can play Amazing Grace to Beautiful Dreamer, and you can play Amazing 2 or 3 other songs that
Right.
Let's say I heard one the other day, and I was just absolutely amazed. Miles Davis, dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum,
Oh yeah.
all blues.
All blues. Yeah.
And they put Kansas City over the top of it.
Yeah.
Going to Kansas City.
Yeah.
And it fits so. I said,
Right.
wow. I was amazed.
Yeah, it'd be the same key, but you got 6/8 to 4/4 there. I mean, you'd have to massively screw up the rhythms.
Yeah, well, no,
or fit the rhythms.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't bad because once you start to do, and then because I was doing that, and then listen to going, Kansas City, here I come.
Oh
And
yeah,
it fit just right all the way down, even to the going to Kansas down.
Right. Right.
And I was amazed at and that all the time they played all blues and did all Kansas City all the way through it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then they added another song, the Beatles too, and I just don't remember.
Yeah.
I heard on KKFI.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's cool. So do you have any other really hilarious gigs that you've done? I'm sure you've done 1,000 stories or whatever. Tell me a funny gig you had, or a horrible gig, or.
Well, I probably the craziest was in Great Falls, Montana. We were booked by.
I'm scared already.
We were booked. I had a band called Threshold at the time. We were booked by the Dave Sobel Theatrical Agency. Our agent was Billy Tipton,
Okay.
which is a whole nother story. 'Cause, well, Billy ended up, after he died, they found out he was a lady.
Oh God.
And he'd been posing all these years
Wow.
and told his wife he had been injured in the war, blah, 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 blah,
Wow.
blah. And in fact, they put out a couple of 45s as the Billy Tipton Trio. And I say, I just, okay, whatever. But for all the, anyway, we get to Great Falls, Montana, and nice place. You've seen the Blues Brothers?
Go right.
With the chicken wire
Yeah,
cage and blah,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And the first thing I hear, I'm the only black person in the group, is, what the men were doing here? I said, well, I have a 2-week contract, pay me, I'm gone. And, well, you're here, let's see what you can play. And they found out we could actually play more than what they were expecting. We did the Tiger by the Tail and Does Your Gum Lose Its Flavor on the Bedpost and Stand By Your Man, all,
Country
and,
stuff, yeah.
And then the people actually, well, do you know raindrops keep falling on my head? Do you know this? Do you know that? And 2-week gig, we ended up there for 3 months.
Wow.
In Great Falls, Montana. Nice place.
Yeah. For first impressions or something else,
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
they? Yeah, wow.
And then we played at a place where Charlie Pride, the black country singer, had a Holiday Inn. We played at his place, and that was during the state fair was going on. And Charlie Rich, the Beach Boys, and Mac Davis was all staying at the hotel.
Wow.
They were performing at the state fair. So they'd all come over to the bar when they weren't performing.
Wow.
And we all jammed together.
Wow.
It was too
neat.
funny. One of them stories, the Beach Boys, they are as crazy as everybody says they are.
I've been really getting into them lately. I knew a lot of their songs. I'd heard them, but boy, I was That Wouldn't It Be Nice. I hadn't heard that song very much. That's a great, the harmonies.
Yeah.
They said, I heard somebody say that they took 4 months on those harmonies or some ungodly amount of time.
I can believe
they're perfect.
Well,
they're absolutely
Brian Wilson
perfect.
was a stickler for that. But then he had good people with him. Daryl Dragon, who was captain at Tennille, Daryl was the captain. And he was the one who did a lot of the music for him. Played the piano.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Do you have another like just memorable gig that was one of your, one that went great or bad, or do you have another one?
I think one of the good ones. Well, I was playing with Horace Washington and Company. Late Horace played saxophone, flute. We opened up for Herbie Hancock at the Music Theater.
Wow.
Little Theater.
What year would that have been?
Cheapers.
Like 70s, 90s.
Probably 90s.
90s.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Even 90s, 2000 maybe.
Yeah.
Because Horace died a couple of years ago. And saying I've just been playing with everybody else since then. So it's opening up for him, and then I was disappointed because his attitude wasn't worth a damn.
Wow, interesting.
I was really disappointed.
Wow.
But anyway, like I said, we got to jam. Like when I was in Colorado, we got to jam with Gladys Knight, and we opened up for her.
Wow.
The Fifth Amendment. 7 Shades of Brown and Undisputed Truth, all of them played at the club. We opened up for all of them, and of course we got to jam with them when.
Wow, that's
so
neat.
It's.
Did you feel the same attitude thing with her, or did you get to meet her
Yeah.
last night or whatever? Did she
she-
have the same kind of attitude, or
Oh,
was she better?
no, she was a whole lot better.
Yeah.
I tell you that probably the most memorable was when I did Mr. and Mrs. Bridge with Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. Oh, those are the nicest people.
Wow.
And of course, we got to play for the cast party and the premiere and all that good stuff. And that was me, the late Richard Ross on the drums, late Milt Abel on upright bass, and Charles Perkins on saxophone. Charles is still around. And we did this song called "Down on the Farm," and it was amazing because it was filmed here in Kansas City. In fact, right up on like 68th and State Line. And, gorgeous houses up there. We filmed in their houses. The house next door is where we staged everything. But it was memorable. Saying then playing for the cast party. Oh, that was fabulous. And you got to meet all these people and I was amazed. Blythe Danner. Oh, that woman's got a good voice. I was really amazed. Anyway.
Yeah, wow. That's interesting you said that about Herbie, and that kind of goes back to the thing you were talking about before of some musicians just have this kind of attitude thing going on. And
I call it the "I'm so great" syndrome. Or legends in their own minds.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Some people are, some people.
Yeah, that's really interesting that so many musicians have that, and I bet a lot of celebrities just get that in general. Actors, like.
For some people, it's hard not to, because they hear their whole life, "You're so good, you're so good." Any musician who say they don't have an attitude or ego, they're lying.
Right.
You know,
right.
it's just,
you kind of have to, don't you? A little bit of one.
You do.
Yeah.
But like for me, I tried showing off and stuff when I was young, and my showing off, I got noticed by, I was playing in a place in AIT at Fort Lee, Virginia. Went to Richmond over the weekend, and the Temptations was performing, and I had the pleasure, their piano player, he broke his hand or something, couldn't make it. Anyway, I ended up playing for him.
Wow.
And, because I played when I was in school, there was a group called the Citations, which did everything the Temptations ever,
What year would that have been?
That I played
yeah.
This was in 1968.
Yeah, wow. So right in the thick of their, wow.
And so I was showing out playing for them. I was in the audience, and we can't perform, blah 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 blah, and hey, get Monroe to play. He can play, and yes,
wow.
Yeah, okay. And they gave me all the sheet music. I said, I don't need this stuff. Just give me a list of the songs and what keys. And there we went. Like I say, I was playing
the things you do, dude. I got this. Come on.
Anyway, I was playing the organ. They had a Hammond organ there, so I was playing it, and I'm just thinking I'm just showing out, just doing everything. After the Temptations performed, they said, "Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's our special guest, Mr. Jimmy Smith." And he jumped up on the organ and went stone crazy.
Yeah,
and I'm just sitting there saying, "Damn."
Yeah, wow.
And, and after he said, "Hey, you good? Keep on practicing. You have a way to go to catch up with me, but keep on going."
Yeah.
That stopped the ego, and that's one of the biggest. Because my father's always told me, no matter how good you are or you think you are, there's always somebody just a little bit better.
Oh, sure.
And, I found that out over the years. But I think that's the reason why I'm like I am. People, "Oh, you so good." I just keep trying, because to me that's, I guess people may think that's boring or self-depreciating or something, but the fact that you even acknowledge that I appreciate the fact that you're here to enjoy it.
That's called being grateful.
Hey, that's what it amounts to.
Yeah.
And you know, I can't take credit for this. Like I say, it's a natural God given. I've always been able to do it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, that's and I think Kansas City has been like that for me. Not even in the violin realm specifically, but I mean, there's a lot of pretty terrible musicians here, but boy, there is a crap load of good ones
oh
too.
yeah,
And it's
extremely.
really good that not that you need to be in competition with everybody necessarily, but you do get inspiration and all that stuff from all
Oh,
these
you
great
do.
players,
You
and
definitely do.
it's a
Well,
good town for that, I
well,
think.
that's what you're supposed. That's what musicians are supposed to do. I say, I know when I hear me playing the piano, and then I hear somebody else playing the piano, and I hear a run that I do, I just smile and say, hey, that's good.
Hmm.
You know, because I recognize, yeah, I hear that. You know, I acknowledge that. Hey, you can do that. Amen.
Yeah.
You know, of course, I hear stuff. If I can play it, I most surely will.
Hmm.
You know, just because I think it honors that whoever can do it.
Hmm. So we're probably getting close to wrapping up here. One last question? Do you have any other piece of advice for any younger musician, maybe even in the 20s, 30s kind of age, if or
The best thing I can tell you is learn, learn, learn. But don't go crazy.
mm-hmm.
Because that's one of the biggest things that they get so much book learning they lose common sense.
Mm. There's a lot of that probably with our my generation and younger.
Yeah,
I
well,
was probably.
well, it is because they treat the different younger generation so much different.
Mm.
You know, from how it was.
Mm.
You know, because like for me playing was like I had the pleasure of playing with the Scamps for quite a few years.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I had the pleasure of playing with one group of the Ink Spots for a while. And that's the if I didn't care.
Mhm.
And oh, it was I had too much fun. And talk about an institution, you know, listening to them back in the late 30s and 40s and the stuff they went through. And I said, I think I have it bad. Oh no.
Mhm.
You know, but then you have to see where you came from to know where you're going.
Mhm.
And that's the best way. Learn. That's why I keep trying to cram as much music. And if people, all the years I've been playing, oh, Monroe, he knows everything. No, I don't.
Mhm.
I know a lot, but
Mhm.
you know, I've been playing a lot of songs you don't play for a while, you tend to forget.
Right.
But you know, other songs, oh yeah, I remember those. And it's just part of,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
all part of it. And I say, I find myself sometimes just going through YouTube, you know, listening to a standard just to remember
Right.
the changes in it,
Yeah.
you know, that I haven't played in a while. And it's not that I want to learn, I want something more to learn, but just in case somebody calls that I want to, yeah, what key? And,
Right.
you know, I say to me, that's what being a musician is, that's what it's supposed to be about.
Mhm.
You know, when music is not fun, you're supposed to quit.
Mhm.
And I've done that a couple of times, just
Mhm.
well burnt out. But I say, being a musician, I'm talking about the sex, drugs, rock and roll, and
Right.
I went through all that and tried all this and did all this and had all, and it was fun while I was doing it. But you know, your mind and your body, hey, you can't do this.
Right.
You know, not if you expect to get this and do this and you know.
Right.
So,
We've talked about that on the show a couple, and I'd like to talk with more guests about that because that is a
Yeah.
huge
Oh,
musician
it
thing
is.
of the drinking and
It
drugs
is. Well,
and and
that's one of the reasons why I don't drink alcohol at the clubs. You know, in fact, I quit that 30-some years ago.
would that be a piece of advice maybe to younger kids? Is maybe don't show up with third beer in,
Hey.
before you've even gotten on stage. Like.
Well, say I've had the pleasure of playing with some of the great people, and there was a couple of people that, you know, I would hire, you know, with the stipulation you could have one drink per set,
Wow.
you know, and if you can't abide with that, then I'll find somebody else. But I think it helped them in the long run because they since was able to not quit drinking, but
Realize that this is a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you were saying, yeah.
and that's what you're here for a reason. So
Yeah, wow. Yeah, well,
well, I say like for me the reason they say all musicians you're either all alcoholics or all dope addicts or all and I say that I drink once a year and I think everybody that knows me knows that my birthday is St. Patrick's Day. I stay home. I don't go anywhere. That's the day I drink. I have my normal peach schnapps and orange juice, and either empty the bottle or pass out, whichever comes first. But then I'm good for another year.
Right. Yeah.
You know? I love playing, watching everybody else get crazy. That's one of the funniest parts of being a musician is watching the other people.
The environment is pretty addicting, you know.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. And it's pretty now that I've kind of gotten a little bit more sober here, you know, myself is that, you know, I've realized that like I actually care about how I play more than I thought I did. You know, before I was, you know, wanted to have some drinks before the show and smoke weed and all that crap, and now I've realized that I really actually care if I play good, and I feel good or bad after a show, and I realized before that I was like thinking that you're doing something awesome, you know, and then now you realize, wow, that was just garbage, you know.
Well, like I say, the thing for me that stopped me from drinking, and I used to go out to the clubs and, you know, do my fair share, but I say especially on my birthday, because I would just go out and play just because it was my birthday. I happened to be at the Phoenix, at that baby grand piano and that long bar, and I had drinks all the way down the bar.
Wow.
They found out my birthday. Oh, here, have a drink.
Wow.
That's why I tell them now, put it in the tip jar and thank you very much.
Yeah.
But I did. How I got home, the grace of God.
Yeah, wow.
I woke up the next morning and I'm still alive. Wow. I did. I called the police department. I called the hospitals. Any hit and run, did he kill anybody? Blah, blah, blah. I kept getting no. Well, God, I'll take that as a sign.
Wow.
I shouldn't. And so ever since then, I say that's been like at least 35 years.
Yeah, wow.
So now St. Patrick's Day, I stay home. Now,
good for you.
Well, a couple of times now, though I did go out, but like one year, WWE was in town at Sprint Center. I took a cab, drunk as I was, and went down and watched the wrestling. Took a cab home.
Yeah, right.
You know, but I know I wasn't gonna get out there driving.
Yeah, well, that's good for you. Yeah, I know you at the end of every show you do that little, or I've seen you do that little spiel of don't be an idiot, don't be.
Well, I do that, and
driving home.
People think it's crazy, but I'm serious. You know, like I say, the whole thing is don't drink and drive. You might spill some.
Right.
Or use a straw so you don't have to tip the glass. And the others, hang up the phone, quit texting while you drive. You're driving a car, not a phone booth. And of course, not that anybody knows what a phone booth anymore.
Yeah, well, that's really nice that you say that. Well, I'm sure that I am speaking on behalf of Kansas City. Thanks so much for playing for all these years, and keep up a bunch more. And we all enjoy listening to you play, man.
I've enjoyed it, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. This is Alan Monroe.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Yep. That's KC Music Talk. We'll see you guys in the next one. Get out of here.
All right.